Good evening. It's my first time, so hope you forgive me for cheating. I wrote it down because I could guess I'd be a bit too nervous to remember half of it. So. And I hope you don't mind if I certainly slip into an Irish accent. It might happen. Okay. So tonight is International Women's Day, so I guess I'm gonna tell a story about a woman. So, Joanna was a child, always with an easy smile, wild and free, as only a child can be. At 5, Joanna noticed her parents did not want her to be that wild and free child. They wanted her to play a role they chose for her. She could not understand what that meant, but suddenly she had no more freedom to play with other children. Her parents hid her away out of sight from everyone. When it was time to go to school, she thought, well, this is my chance. I can be wild and free again with other kids. But she was sorely mistaken. For the very first day, other children and even her teacher criticized her for being herself. It wasn't appropriate. They made her feel that. Sometimes brave voices, sometimes stern looks, and sometimes even raised fists. As time went by, she was settling into that role they forced her. As a way to pass as unnoticed as she could, as a way to escape all the aggression and recrimination that came seemingly from nowhere, but never really left her. As puberty hit, Joanna was even more settled into that role. Chained to a stage she did not want to be on, less and less recognizable to herself, as she admired the glorious changes in other girls, becoming wild and free, women in their own right, and she wondered, why can't I? Enthralled by these magical beings who blossomed in front of her eyes, she quickly realized she could only come close to them while playing that accursed role she was forced into. Life went on, as life often does. Every day more and more resigned to just follow the lines of the script, and even the wondrous moments near those magical creatures were tarnished by playing that role. I guess even an actor can, as the performance comes to an end and the curtain drops, leave the character behind and be themselves, but not her. For her, the curtain never dropped. Chained to that stage, there was no other reality, no off moment. Her spark was finally dwindling when she just ran the lines on the script. Wake up, breathe. Joanna took a breath. Have breakfast, breathe. She took another breath. She did nothing that was not written. Time was spent. Joanna could not read another line, act another movement. The weight of that role society had forced her upon her so violently no longer allowed her to even exist. In a moment of sheer despair, trapped between to fight or just lay down and die, she broke her chains, threw herself headfirst into the audience, and dragged herself out of that theater. She had forgotten how to walk, sat on the stage. She crawled her way into the sunlight. Still as she crawled in the streets, every passer-by yelled at her, "This is not your place." But she never faltered. And in the darkest corners, she heard tell of women, wild and free, who had served their time on the stage, escaped, and actually became whole. Determined, she relentlessly sought them out until she found one, actually named like an angel. She looked at poor, broken, wretched Joanna, right square in the eyes, and spoke, "I see you, Joanna. Under that costume, behind that mask, I see the wild and free woman waiting to become whole." She helped her out of her trappings that were as lead, and the mask that hid her from all. She could finally stand by the side of that marvelous creature. That wild and free woman, she was finally able to believe in herself, in her newfound strength, to look in the mirror and at last recognize herself. At first, with timid steps, but soon after with long, solid strides that struck fear into the heart of all those that ever yelled at her, she eventually crossed the path of other wild and free women she had always admired, only this time they did not clamor for a character, but rather welcomed her in their midst as one of their own, a whole wild and free woman. Well, women like my friend Alexa, who has the gall to actually have her birthday on International Women's Day. So, happy birthday, Alexa. This story is my present to you. Okay? So the story has ended. I know it's a bit short, and I'm a bit nervous. My first time telling a story on stage, especially in front of all these people. Guess there's nothing to do but say goodnight. I hope you enjoyed it. And by the way, I'm Joanna. Thank you.
Give it up, everyone. Thank you so much for all the storytellers of the night. It is indeed not easy to be here. So thank you for being welcoming, for being amazing always. The audience, for your warmth, for your hugs, for your claps. Thank you, Ivote, for being here this amazing night.
Okay, so the next event is on the 22nd of March at Fábrica Praça de Prata. There is going to be a lot more seating room, and y'all know the drill. You've been there before, so thank you so much for coming and for supporting the storytellers tonight.